Hello everyone and welcome to our lecture discussion, and this is all about nomenclature of organic compounds, specifically focusing on hydrocarbons. So allow me to present the intended learning outcomes. At the end of this lecture video, we must be able to: number 1, identify the parent chain in an organic molecule. Goal number 2 is to classify the family or group of the parent chain or the base. Number 3 is to name the organic compound given its various representations such as chemical, structural, or skeletal formula. And last one is to provide a visual representation such as skeletal or structural formula for the organic compound given its name. So let's start with the definition of nomenclature. So when say nomenclature, it simply means that you are naming your compounds. So in nomenclature, we either use a common name or a systematic name. So when we say it's a common name, this is the simplest name of the compound, and it's used in everyday basis. On the other hand, when you say systematic, it is systematic in a way that there are rules that should be followed. So there's an organization called the IUPAC, or the International Union of the Pure and Applied Chemistry, that sets the rule for the naming of your compounds. So way back 1993, so the first edition of the nomenclature of organic compounds is shown to your right. So a guide to IUPAC nomenclature of organic compounds 1993, and I have read this. So this is around 200 pages only during that time. Then in 2013, another version of the nomenclature was released by the same institution, and upon reading it, so it's around 1,500 pages now. So it means that the rules are now expounded. So a lot of rules have been added to the rules. So how do we name your organic compounds? So compounds are given systematic names, or another term for systematic name is IUPAC name. So compounds are given IUPAC name by a process that uses this convention. So we have your locant, prefix, parent, and your suffix. Basically, each part of the name of the compound will try to ask a question such as, let's start with the parent. So when you say parent, how many carbons are there? So this is actually the longest chain of carbons. On the other hand, when you say suffix, it answers the question, what is the primary functional group of the parent? So we already encountered different suffixes in our previous discussion, such as when you have an alkane, so that's ane ending, you have ene for alkene, and then you have ine for alkynes, and so on. Now for these two, the locant and the prefix, so there will be uh, parts of the structure that seems to be substituents. So ito yung mga nakakabit dun sa ating parent. So prefix answers the question, what are the substituents in that particular organic compound? And the locant is trying to ask your question, where are the substituents in the functional group? So locant just means location. So where is the location? Where is the substituent connected or attached to dun sa ating parent? So don't worry, we will discuss one by one the rules on naming your organic compound based on the parent, the suffix, the prefix, and the locant. But before that, we will start again with the definition of hydrocarbons. So kasi ito yung dinidiscuss natin ngayon. So when saying hydrocarbons, these are compounds that are just made up of carbons and hydrogens. So ito ay refresher lang to um, sa mga topics na na-discuss ko sa inyo last time. So we also discuss several terms such as aliphatic and aromatic. So Under hydrocarbons pala, we have your alkanes, and you have your alkynes, and we have your arenes. So among the four, we can consider your alkanes, alkenes, and alkynes as aliphatic. When say aliphatic, it is just straight chain. Okay? When on the other hand naman, when say aromatic, there is a presence of a ring. And there's a certain condition para dapat na ma-meet para masabi na aromatic ang isang organic compound. It should be para siyang may benzene ring siya. And as you can see, there are alternating double bonds and single bonds. Also, kasama din sa aliphatic natin yung mga cyclic equivalents. When you say cyclic equivalents, you have your cycloalkane, cycloalkene, and your alkynes. Okay? So, please try to remember the terms aliphatic and aromatic. Also, last time, in our previous lecture discussion, we also included the discussion of your saturated and unsaturated hydrocarbons. So when you say saturated hydrocarbons, it only means you have the presence of single bond. On the other hand, when you say unsaturated, we have your multiple bonds. So when you say multiple bonds, is either double or triple bond. So among the four, only alkanes will be classified under saturated hydrocarbons, and the rest of the members of the hydrocarbon family, like alkenes, alkynes, and arenes, will be considered under your unsaturated compounds. Okay, so since na-discuss na natin kung ano yung definition ng hydrocarbons, let's now try to give a name sa ating mga hydrocarbons. So may mga rules na sinet ang IUPAC for the naming of your hydrocarbons. So the first thing that you should do is to find the parent or the hydrocarbon chain. So when you say parent, it is the longest chain of carbon atoms for alkanes. Okay? Kasi mamaya, sa susunod kong mga discussion sa alkenes and alkynes and sa arenes, ganun din, naghahanap din tayo ng pinakamahabang chain pero may certain criterion na dapat ay masunod. Okay, let's say we have this compound. Okay, so ang gagawin natin kasi kapag maghahanap tayo ng parent chain, it's actually trial and error. So you will do trial and error kasi madaming possibilities and you need to locate the longest. Okay, so itong part na to, if you consider this is just 4 carbons. Okay? Ito naman ay 5. So, ano pa yung mga other possibilities for trial and error? We can also do itong part na to. So, ito, yan, at isama natin to. So, ilan lahat yan? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So, kaya siya dito nakalagay 6 carbons. Ngayon, so meron natin 4, 5, 6. Ano pa yung isang possibility? We do this part. Yan. So, meron kang 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So, itong portion na to ay may 8 carbons. So, longest chain. So, yung longest chain ay yung pinakamataas ng number. Of course, T8. So, the parent chain has 8 carbons in it. Okay? So, I have here a footnote for alkenes and alkynes. Ganun din yung ruling. We also find the longest chain, but ang sabi sa rule doon ay dapat yung longest chain should always contain the double or the triple bond. Okay? For arenes naman, or our aromatics, watch out for the presence of your benzene ring. So, yung benzene ring, yun yung ating parang hexagon, yung piatos ninyo na may alternating double bonds. Okay. Ngayon, nahanap nyo na yung parent chain, ngayon ay bibigyan nyo naman siya ng pangalan. So, number 2 rule is to name the parent chain based on the number of carbons. So, ito yung example natin kanina, and sabi nga natin, may 8 carbons doon sa compound. So, yung 8 carbons na yun, bibigyan natin yun ng prefix. Okay? So, there's a table here sa inyong right side. You use this table for naming the parent chain based on the number of carbons, based on the prefix. So, when you have 1, that's met, 2 et, 3 prop, 4 but, 5 pent, 6 hex, 7 hep, 8 oct, 9 non, and 10 dec. So, yung first 4, yung kailangan yung i-memorize, and then the 5 to 10 ay madali lang naman siyang maalala kasi kung naalala nyo pa yun sa geometry class niyo, you think of your geometry polygon. So, for example, when you have when you have a 5 sided polygon, so you call that your pentagon. Okay, so we use the prefix pen. For 6, we have the hexagon, so hex yung prefix. So, dito sa ating compound na may 8 carbons, yung parent chain, we assign it as oct. Okay? So, the prefix is oct. O, di ba in English, when you say prefix, ito yung mga nilalagay nyo before the word. Okay? So, before the word. So, ito yung nauuna. Okay? So, rule number 2 just says na kailangan yung bigyan ng pangalan yung hydrocarbon chain based on the number of carbon. So, pag mali na kayo sa step number 1, magkakamali na din kayo sa step number 2. So, be careful in doing your trial and error. So, for number 3 rule, so ito naman yung sa may suffix. Diba? Tandaan nyo yung sa ating convention na meron tayo nung low-cut, prefix, parent, and suffix. So, yung suffix in English, di ba, ito yung ending. So, ending. So, yung ending nung ating parent chain, depende yon sa kung anong klaseng functional group or family yung meron sa inyong organic compound. So, for example, alkanes, A ng dulo. Alkenes, in, ines, alkynes, I ng dulo. And pag arenes naman or aromatics ay mga benzene ring yung ilalagay yung ending. Okay? Now, for the substituent, kasi di ba ang ating convention nga, meron tayong suffix, parent, prefix, local. Ngayon, dun sa substituent, ay kailangan din nating ma-identify, ma-determine kung anong klaseng substituent ang meron na nakakabit dun sa parent chain at kailangan natin bigyan ng pangalan at number yon. And there's a rule here that says use a hyphen to connect the number to the name. So, for example, paano natin bibigyan ng pangalan yung mga prefixes? So, yung mga prefixes kasi, usually ay galing lang din siya sa mga alkanes. So, for example, merong sa isang parent chain, may nakakabit na 2 carbons doon. So, ang tawag sa kanya talaga is ethane, pero magiging ethyl siya. So, remember the names of your first 10 alkanes, methane, ethane, propane, butane, pentane, hexane, heptane, octane, nonane, and decane, and you just replace the ending ng ane to il. So, methane becomes methyl, ethane becomes ethyl, propane becomes propyl, and so on. So, basically, nagiging alkyl group sila. When say alkyl groups, ito yung may bawas ng isang hydrogen. Bakit? Bakit kailangan magbawas ng isang hydrogen sa alkene ninyo? Kasi kapag hindi nyo binawasan ng isang hydrogen yon, hindi nyo siya may ikakabit doon sa carbon ng inyong parent chain. Okay? Okay. So, now for the rules talaga, ito pa yung mga rules about the substituent. So, rule number 1 says, if there is one substituent, number the parent chain from the end that gives the substituent the lower number. Okay, so for example, ito, may tatlong possible na structures kayo na magagamit. So ito, this one is called the condensed structure. This one is called a line angle or skeletal structure. And this one is your line bond structure or Kekulé structure. So, ang pinakamadaling gamitin dyan sa tatlong yan ay yung line angle or yung skeletal structure. But it doesn't necessarily mean that hindi kayo marunong na gumawa o magbigay ng name ng mga compounds sa inyo kapag yung binigay lang sa inyo ay condensed structure. Okay? So, for example, itong tatlong to, yung line bond, yung condensed at yung skeletal structure, they are all equivalent structure. So, ito na lang yung gamitin natin, yung sa skeletal structure. So, ang sabi sa rule number 1 ay kapag may isang substituent dun sa inyong organic compound, you always find the longest chain for the parent and yung substituent na yon ay dapat mabigyan nyo siya ng mas mababang number. So, how do you give a lower number to the substituent? So, ang gawin nyo na lang dyan ay you start from the end kung saan nyo siya unang ma-encounter. So, ang tanong dito, magsa-start ba kayo sa kaliwa or magsa-start kayo sa kanan? So, kung eto kasi, nakita nyo na yung numbering, ay nag-start siya from your kanan. Kasi bakit? Eto, yung substituent na yan ay na-encounter nyo first when you go from your right to left. Okay? So, that's why, bago pala yun, bigyan natin ng pangalan. So, ito ay nag-iisa lang na carbon. So, based on our nomenclature ng ating mga alkyl groups, this one is originally a methane. But this time, we will replace the ane with -il, so it becomes methyl. Okay? Now, what's the name of the parent hydrocarbon chain? So, the parent hydrocarbon chain, how many carbons are there? So, you have 5 carbons. So, the name is pent. And the ending is, or the suffix is ane. So, you have methyl pentane. But it doesn't stop there because where is the methyl group attached to dun sa parent chain? So, your methyl group is attached doon sa second carbon ng inyong parent chain. That's why the name of the compound is 2-methylpentane. Okay, nakalagay din dito yung hindi o maling naming ng inyong hydrocarbon. It is not 4-methylpentane. Bakit? Kasi ang possibility nito ay nag-start kayo from your left. So, nag-start kayo from left to right. Kapag nag-start kayo sa left to right, yung substituent, maa-assignan nyo siya ng number 4. So, 2 versus 4, lagi dapat mas mababang number yung gamitin ninyo. Okay. Rule number 2. If there are two or more substituents, the first thing to do is to list them in alphabetical order. Number 2 is to number the chain from the end that gives the lower number from the substituent encountered first. So, dun muna tayo sa unang dalawa. So, kapag meron kayong dalawa o mas higit pang mga substituents, you do the alphabetization. Okay? And then, itong second checkpoint dito, ay sabi doon ay mag-start tayo doon sa end kung saan nagbibigay ng ma-assign na natin na mas bababang number yung substituent na encounter natin first. Parang katulad dun sa rule number 1. You assign or you give a lower number dun sa substituent na una mong ma-encounter from whichever end. Okay? Number 3 is, if there are different substituents at the equal position on the opposite ends of the parent chain, give the substituent of lower alphabetical order the lower number. So, anong ibig sabihin nito? May cases kasi na maaaring magpantay yung number nung inyong substituents. So, ang gagawin nyo doon ay kung sino yung mas nauna sa alphabetization, siya yung bibigyan nyo ng mas mababang number. So, itong structure na nakikita nyo dito, this is actually an application of the third checkpoint dito. Bakit? Kasi kung gagawin ko, nakikita nyo na dito, the numbering starts from left to right, but this time, let's say that I will start from right to left. So, what happened? Tingnan nyo yung numbers. So, you have, if you start from left to right, the numbers or yung mga substituents natin ay nakakonect sa carbon 3 and carbon number 5. At kapag nag-start naman tayo from right to left, it's also the same number. Okay? So, ito yung sinasabi natin na magkaparehas yung number ng substituents natin. So, what's the deciding factor? Sasabi din sa rule ay kung sino ang nauna sa alphabetization, so siya yung bibigyan natin ng mas mababang numbering. Okay. So, ito, nakikita nyo na naman na how many carbons are there in the parent? So, you have 7. That's why it is a heptane. Okay, heptane na siya. Diretso na yan kasi puro single bonds lang naman yan. Now, ano yung dalawa nating substituent? So, yung substituents natin ay Oops, teka lang. I-erase natin yung portion na yun. Okay, so in-erase ko na lang siya. So, yung sa ating ito, we have 1, 2, so this is ethyl. And this one is, isa lang naman siya, so this is methyl. So, which comes first based on the alphabetization? So, ethyl comes first, then your methyl. Okay, so sabi doon sa rule ay kailangan natin bigyan ng mas mababang number kung sino yung nauna sa alphabetization. So, paano natin ma-establish yung correct direction? So, ang tamang direction dito is going from left to right. Kaya ganyan yung numbers na nakikita nyo na 1 to 7. Okay? So, basically, alphabetization, tapos kung same yung attachment ng inyong mga substituent doon sa parent chain, then you assign a lower number doon sa mas nauna sa alphabetization. So that's why the name is 3-ethyl. Kasi bakit? Merong ethyl group na nakakonect dito sa carbon number 3, and then you have a methyl group at carbon number 5. And the name of the parent is heptane. Okay? So ito yung wrong naming niya. Bakit? So itong ginawa na dito is instead na left to right, ay right to left na direction. So, yun nga yung sinasabi ko sa inyo na be careful with the determination ng inyong parent chain kasi trial and error, prone kayong magkamali sa direction. Okay, rule number 3. If the same substituent occurs more than once, so ganun pa rin, number the parent chain from the end that gives the lower number to the substituent encountered first. So this is again rule number 1. Okay? So second checkpoint is indicate the number of times the substituent occurs by a prefix di, tri, tetra, penta, hexa, and so on. So kung ilang beses na ulit yung substituent, ay bibigyan mo din siya ng prefix. So ito may prefix na para doon sa number of carbons ng inyong parent chain, meron ding prefix na para doon sa kung ilang beses na ulit yung substituent. Okay? So, you use this table, okay? So, yung medyo madali lang naman dito, yung naiiba lang naman ay, actually may similarity yung prefixes for carbons and itong prefixes for substituent kung ilang beses. So, yung 5 to 10 ay parehas lang dun sa carbons. Diba? May penta, hexa, hepta, octa, nona, and deca. Okay? Then, yung inyong 1, 2, 3, 4 ay mono, di, tri, tetra. Yung mono, hindi na siya masyadong ginagamit. So, we don't use mono for the prefixes kung ilang beses siya naulit. Okay? Now, kung ilang beses naulit yung isang substituent, for example, may tatlong substituent, may isang substituent na tatlong beses na naulit, so you need to assign it with 3 numbers. So how do you separate the 3 numbers? You use a comma. So for example, yung mga substituents mo ay nakakonect sa number 2, 4, and 5. So there should be a comma separating each number. Okay? So be familiar with these prefixes kasi ito yung mga magagamit natin sa naming ng ating mga organic compounds. So let's say this one is your organic compound. So very straightforward na yung mga examples ko dito. So yung parent chain na dito is 6 carbons. So that is a hexane. Okay. Now, sabi doon sa rule natin, di ba? We start from the end kung saan natin ma-encounter yung substituent first. So for example, this one, if we ito yung unang may encounter natin if we start from right to left. Ito naman ay actually ito, second carbon to. Pag ito namang isang carbon, itong substituent na to ang inuna natin. So ang direction niyan is left to right. So ma-encounter natin siya saan? 1, 2, 3. So 3. So sabi sa rule number 1, mag-start tayo, isa-set natin yung tamang direction by considering aling substituent yung mas mauna nating ma-encounter first. So we go from right to left. Okay? So that's why the correct numbering is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right to left. Now ano muna yung mga substituents natin? So as you can see, meron lang tayong tag-isang carbon dyan. So that is automatically a methyl. Now, how many methyl groups are there in the structure? You have 2. So you use di as a prefix. So that's why it will be now called dimethyl. So that's why, yung nakita nyo dito, may dimethyl. Now, where are your metal groups? So, sa ang carbon nakakonect yung metal groups sa parent chain. So, yung ating dalawang metal groups ay nakakonect sa carbon number 2 and carbon number 4. That's why the name is 2,4-dimethyl hexane. So, dun sa pag-separate naman ng number, dun sa name ng inyong substituent, ay merong kinagamitan ng hyphen. So, you use a dash or hyphen to separate the numbers or number from the name of your substituent. Okay, rule number 4. So, dahil na-introduce ko na sa inyo yung prefixes na di, tri, tetra, and so on, yung mga yun ay hindi ginagamit sa alphabetization. So, we don't consider the prefixes for the alphabetization. Let's say you have this one. This one, again, you have 6 carbons, so that's why it's called hexane. Then, ano yung ating mga substituents? So, you have here a 1 carbon substituent and another 1 carbon substituent attached sa carbon number 2 ng inyong hexane. So, this one is called your methyl again. Then, this portion, ito, meron kang dalawang carbon. So, anong pangalan niya? So, that's met-et. So, that is called ethyl. So, since yung inyong metal group ay dalawang beses na ulit, so you call this now your dimethyl. And according to the rule, we don't consider the prefix di for the we don't consider the di in the alphabetization. So, it's just a alphabetization battle between your methyl and your ethyl. So, obviously, your ethyl comes first, then followed by the methyl. So, that's why, ang nakikita niyo dito, ethyl comes first, then dimethyl. Kasi we don't consider the di in the dimethyl. Now, you have your hexane, that's your 6-carbon parent. And then, where are your substituents attached? So, unahin natin yung ethyl. So, di ba sabi natin, yung ethyl ay siya yung bibigyan natin ng, kaya ang numbering pala nito is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 from left to right kasi 'di ba? Una nating na-encounter yung metal groups sa end o sa dulo mula sa kaliwa. Okay? So kung yun yung magse-set ng tamang direction o numbering ng inyong carbons. So nasaan nakakabit yung inyong ethyl group? So it is attached to carbon number 4. And then where are the dimethyl or the 2 metal groups? So it is attached to 2, 2. So bakit 2, 2? Kasi doon nakakabit yung dalawang metal groups doon sa carbon number 2. That's why the name is 4-ethyl 2,2-dimethyl hexane. So ganun pa din kapag may mga 2 or more numbers, kasi meron kang isang substituent na nauulit ng ilang beses, so you use a comma. So we also use hyphens or dash to separate the number with the name. Okay? So yun lang kailangan yung hindi buo yung name ng inyong organic compound kapag wala nung mga dash na yon. Kasi kunwari, for example, itong number na to ay naging walang comma, so 22. Ilan lang naman yung iyong carbon chain do sa parent? 6 lang naman. So, it's wrong. So, kailangan mo talagang maglagay ng comma to separate the numbers. Okay. So, let's give some examples. So, we will now try to name the organic compounds given here based on the rules na napag-usapan natin. Okay. So, let's try to deduce the systematic name of the following compounds. So, again, consider the name of the parent. So, unahin muna natin yung parent. So, the name of the parent ay, bago yon, hanapin muna natin yung pinakamahaba. So, I think this is ito yung pinakamahabang chain ng inyong carbon. And, ano na naman ang direction? So, it's either we start from left or right. So, sa tingin nyo, saan kaya tayo pwede mag-start para ma-encounter natin yung substituent ng una at mas mababa? So, mag-start tayo dito sa mag-start tayo sa kanan. So, I will number this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so what is the name of the parent? You have the 7 carbon chain, so that is called a heptane. Okay, now nasaan ang mga substituents? So meron tayong substituent, ito at ito. So basically, ilang carbons lang yung mga substituents natin. We have your methyl. Methyl siya kasi 1 carbon. Ilang beses na ulit yung inyong methyl group? So 4. So what is the prefix for 4? So we will use the prefix tetra. So the word is tetramethyl. Okay, so let's write the name tetramethyl heptane. Now, nasaan yung mga metal groups ninyo? So, dahil na-establish naman natin yung correct direction and numbering, so yung mga metal groups natin ay yung locant, yung number ay dapat 4 na beses din na maulit or makita natin na apat na numbers kasi nga tetra to. So, ano yung mga location ng inyong metal group? So, you have 3, 3. So, ito yan. And then you have ito, 4, 4. Okay, so the name is 3344 tetramethyl heptane. Okay, how about this example? Let's say this is structure B. So ito naman ay ganun pa rin, parang obvious naman na ito yung longest chain kasi mahaba siya. So okay, so kailangan natin ma-establish na sa ang end tayo magsisimula na mas mabibigyan natin ng mas mababang numbering yung inyong mga substituent. So, ito kasi malayo. So, dito tayo mag-start sa left ulit. So, again, I'll use another color para hindi naman masyadong, let's say, green. Yan. So, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So, it seems that you have a parent chain with 10. So, what's the prefix for 10? You have dec. And then, since this is alkane lang naman, so decane. Now, ano ang mga substituents na meron tayo? So, meron tayong magkakaparehas na substituents. So, ilang carbons ang meron doon sa substituents natin? Meron tayong 2. So, ano ang name ng inyong substituent? That's met, et. So, we call that your ethyl. Okay. Nasaan yung isa pang substituent? Ito. Meron kang isang carbon. So, we call that your methyl group. Okay. Ngayon, ilang beses na ulit yung methyl group? Isang beses lang siya, so no need to use a prefix. Yung ethyl, ilang beses siyang naulit? So you have 1, 2, 3. So you have 3 times. So we will use a prefix tri. Okay. Ngayon, nasaan yung inyong mga substituents? So let's say your ethyl groups ay saan nakakabit? So you have dahil try ito, so tatlong numbers yung makikita natin but so we have 3, 3, and then where's the other one? It's in the 6 carbon position. Now, how about your methyl? Your methyl group is attached to carbon number 7. Okay. So, paano natin naayusin yung name? So, again, we do the alphabetization, ethyl versus methyl. Obviously, start tayo sa ethyl. So, ethyl comes first, then followed by the methyl, and then we end it with heptane. Okay? Now, nasaan yung mga numbers? So, ilagay natin 3, 3, 6. Okay? And then ethyl, then dash. Where is the methyl group? Carbon number 7. So, the name is 336 ethyl 7 methyl heptane. So, let's check if tama yung ating answers na 3344 tetramethyl heptane and 336 ethyl 7 methyl heptane. Okay, so basically tama yung mga sagot natin. So ano ang lesson dito ay you always make sure na tama yung parent na ginamit niyo. So you do the trial and error kasi if you assign a wrong or you deduce the wrong parent chain, everything else will follow. Mamamali kayo doon. Okay? So, I am now challenging you to try this on your own. So, try to deduce also the systematic name and the systematic name of the following compounds. And as much as possible, I try to state the rules, kung anong rules. Hindi naman kailangan na rule number 1, ito, ganun. So, kailangan nyo lang alam yung certain rule na discuss ko, kahit hindi nyo na ibanggitin kung anong number siya. So, sabihin nyo kung ito ay alphabetization, yung rule na hindi kailangan yung prefixes sa alphabetization, and so on. Okay? So I will now stop here because the next topic will be all about discussion of your other hydrocarbons, such as your alkyl halides and alkenes, alkynes, and then you have your arenes. Okay? So that's it. Thank you very much for listening.